Who the hell would want to watch us for 8 hours? But anyway,
I would.
welcome,
I would.
welcome to the Champ and Shazam podcast. It took us fucking long enough to figure this out, and uh,
Yeah. Plenty of time. Plenty of time that we've
we're
had. Should have did it earlier.
and we're maybe not as elevated as we'd prefer to be at this point in time, but we're gonna still give you all what you came here for. So, I mean, we're gonna. I guess we got to start with the prelims. Um,
Yeah,
you
can't
know,
neglect KM.
to be exactly, can't neglect the counter move audience that, to me, is where DraftKings is really dropping the ball. It's you have when you have what was it? I think I told you it was like a 41-way tie for third place once. I mean, that's just terrible.
It's horrible. It's a gridlock. You got six more players to choose from.
What even
Uh,
kills me is,
different problems.
if anything, at least put Anthony Pettis' brother into your card. I mean, come on, the guy's brother is fighting, and you're not even like saying, hey, Sergio's here too, and maybe part of the reason why he's even on this card is because his older brother is fighting. That to me just kind of throws me off slightly.
Anthony
It's,
said Anthony said that he prefers it that way when they do not fight together. He is in Sergio's corner. That's the type of person he is, and he finds it's better for both him and Sergio that he's his own man. He's with Duke. He's with Ben, and they seem to like it that way. But I will say he hasn't had a finish in the UFC yet. I don't know, man. Might see one tonight, might not.
I mean, I'm not going to jump straight into that fight. I mean, our first fight is the
True.
the chick fight. We got what's it, DeGrama versus I'm terrible at these names. That's why I kind of go to you on the names because
Durandamy versus Pacheco. Oh God, I'm horrible at Brazilian names too. Like we're
yeah,
not
I
even
mean,
at the hard name yet, and this is kind of pathetic. We're not even at the most
we
difficult
haven't
fucking
even
name
got
ever.
for some reason the chicks have became the new hardest thing in the UFC to pronounce. We'll go with Joanna later on because I think that's just what we're going to call her for the show because trying to pronounce that gigantic Polish name is. I mean, they even did a video about how difficult that is. It's just, she is a six-time movie Kai, and so props to her. But I kind of looked at the weigh-ins yesterday. Which is D-Rama's, ranked 15. Uh, my joke is that I thought she was supposed to show up to a shake class and ended up at an MMA camp and just kind of ran with it. So I'm not putting much merit into this fight. If we're talking, if this is strictly fantasy purposes, I think that you can find better value in other fights. But if you wanted to go contrarian, this is where, I kind of say, pick who you like in this fight. And if one of them happens to get a finish, you probably have a low-owned fighter that could carry you a long way as far as money. And that's ultimately what the game is that you're trying to find fighters that are going to win and fighters that are going to maybe not be as high owned so that when they do win, it actually propels you above the competition. So sometimes taking that first fight, having that first victory underneath your belt can make the energy or the tension for the rest of the night kind of go away because you're like, hey, you know what? I'm already ahead of the game. I got Pettis. I'm pretty solid on him or whoever you're feeling confident in, and kind of roll it from there. So if I'm looking at it from that standpoint, it's probably not a terrible idea to look at this fight. You were the one that wrote the article about it. I mean, who do you favor in this fight? Yeah.
This is what I'll say, and I made this comment on the Counter Move group on Facebook. Originally, I watched Larissa's fight first, and I said, I don't like her. I don't like her striking defense. I feel like she takes way too many big shots. She holds her chin up. She doesn't pop her shoulder up on her jab when she's throwing exchanges, which leaves her chin open. But then I looked at De Randamie's fights and very slow working. That's why Amanda Nunes was able to take her down so easily. She's obviously a kickboxing champion. What I can say is Everyone asks this question about Ronda Rousey now. Will she fight a man? I think it's hilarious. There's a line on it now, but she actually did fight a man in a kickboxing fight. And we're not talking like she's 200 pounds and this guy's 140. Like, she tore him up. Pictures I saw, he was tore up. So,
See,
but
and to be honest with you, I think that in the UK or someplace that's not the United States, that's probably something where you could be okay with it. Ronda's comment of how it should never be okay for a man and a woman to fight is probably the right PR move from her standpoint. At that same time, I have to agree with it. Just kind of to go off subject, I don't know if you've seen it. Cyborg came out and said that, Rousey's challenge to Layla Ali meant that she was scared of her, which I found hilarious because Layla Ali is like 6'1". There's no way she would ever be able to get to 135 pounds. As with Cyborg, if she'd stay the hell off the steroids, could probably easily get to 135 pounds. But, that's where the dilemma comes into, and I really just didn't like, it's nothing against Cyborg for saying Rousey's willing to fight Layla Ali, she should be able to fight me, is kind of, to me, distanced. I think Layla Ali doesn't realize that those long-ass limbs, Rousey would take her down probably pretty quick and have her tapped out in a leg lock or armbar, I think about 5 minutes tops. Now, if Layla was able to land a jab on Ronda, I'm not saying that Ronda's not going down, because I see Layla Ali fight. I know you're not as the biggest boxing guy, but she was like her dad when she was beating the crap out of chicks for a long while. I mean, there was girls that were undefeated that she knocked out in the first round. So Layla Ali's definitely not no joke, but I just thought that was funny. I don't really think that we should maybe spend too much time on it. I think, I guess you've already told everybody where you are going with this one.
I faded.
You'd fade it.
I don't have faith in somebody's chin, but I also don't have faith in somebody's offense. For a Muay Thai kickboxer to not have a lot of highlight reel knockouts, I don't have my faith in him.
Okay. Next one's the fight I know that you actually like, which is Jake Lindsay versus Joseph Duffy. And
Love it. I don't care that Duffy has the moniker, the last man to be Conor McGregor. Funny enough, nobody's talking about that. He's not even talking about that. The guy lost his first fight in the 4th round of a Cage Warriors title fight, decided to walk away. Well, guess what? For 3 years, he wasn't sitting on his ass. He was becoming a professional boxer with a 7-0 record. If you flip tape on this guy and only watch his last 2 fights before getting signed to the UFC, you would not think that this guy is a ground guy in any way, shape, or form. You would think he's a normal Western European boxer, normal UK boxer. And the funny thing is that all of his fights had submission before that. Conor McGregor, Norman Park, all submission. Jake Lindsay probably has the advantage in the wrestling department, but I see holes in striking and I see obviously holes in jiu-jitsu. So bad matchup. Duffy's got too good of footwork and head movement and overall body movement, I think, for Lindsay to take him down without being equally as good on the feet. If Lindsay does manage to get him down, it's not a cakewalk there either. So,
right, and I'm glad you brought up the subject of nobody's really talking about the McGregor thing. I think that's a smart move. I think that's something you hype up later on.
He's not ready to eat those words if this gets to that point and he gets the shit kicked down by McGregor. He doesn't want that for his career. He just wants to fight.
Correct. And again, I applaud a guy to do that, just in case if anybody's wondering. Yes, I am smoking a cigarette during the podcast.
He never meant to. See how much I care. I don't even notice. He didn't ask to be the last guy to beat Conor McGregor, is what I'm saying. He didn't ask for it. He didn't look for it. It is what it is, and he could care less.
No, and you know what? To me, that's a sign of a fighter that's not just in it for the fame. Like, there's a guy that actually wants to fight and recognizes hey, you know what? This is a good opportunity for me to propel my career.
Well, look at it this way. Jiu-jitsu is a grappling art, and trust me, I've seen a lot of brand new jiu-jitsu guys say, I want to try MMA, and they start getting punched in the face, and it's a whole different sport. You're going to take a guy that's primarily a jiu-jitsu guy and just say, fuck it. I'm going to retire from only losing once and go to boxing. I just don't see how you do that. And then he comes back to MMA and looks like a straight, been boxing for a while in his life boxer. I really applaud that. He looks,
Well,
not many guys will go down that road to get to become better.
and you know what? And the way I look at it is that decision maybe came from bad career advice from whoever.
Oh, another side note before I forget, he is actually trained for this fight at TriStar, and depending on his performance, he is planning on relocating his family to Canada to train at TriStar with Faraz Sahabi permanently. He said the gym, the environment was a fit for him. Everyone there had no egos. Everyone there was willing to help. So if he's comfortable there as he says he is, and he's not blowing it out on, blowing proportion on the media, I just see him being really comfortable and hurting Lindsay, who hasn't looked great at all since entering the UFC.
Okay, so and that's that's kind of where we're at, and to prelude into it, we had already kind of talked about Sergio. We'll go ahead and move on there. He's fighting Ryan Babyface Benoit, which I think is hilarious that you go by the name of Babyface. I sometimes wonder where these fighters' nicknames come from.
An asshole coach somewhere, trust me.
Yeah, I know, but I think that as Babyface is maybe a terrible nickname.
He's half-scale Jake Ellenberger. You take away his face, his body looks like a mini Jake Ellenberger action figure. He's built like a brick shithouse.
But the next fight has the best nickname. We'll get to that in a second. I think it's going to be a lot of people that are picking Pettis' brother based on just that merit. You had kind of said it earlier where Sergio hasn't finished. So, I mean, that's where we're looking at this fight is, his brother's big on that. You have to listen to any of the interviews that Anthony has given. It's, I want to finish this fight because I don't want to be the champion that goes to decisions, and I want to be, he wants to be the pound for pound champ. I think that's a great, lofty aspirations to have. I hope he's not overlooking the fight because then it'll just fuck him up completely.
Ask Benson Henderson about the Showtime kick and think his expectations are too high. Nobody saw that coming.
Right, exactly.
He can hit it again and nobody would still see it coming.
No. And this is what we'll get to that fight in a minute, but I kind of agree with you on that aspect of, this is Anthony's fight to lose. It's not the other way around. But back to his little brother who doesn't have as good hair. I guess that would be the first thing that you point out. The second thing is when you're looking at his victories, I mean, this guy's like a 50-50 fighter. He's 50% decision, 25 submission, 25 KO. So it's almost a coin toss as if he wins this fight, how he wins it.
The other side of the coin of that is most of his fights took place at bantamweight, where I know at least one other one that he finished in the first round was at flyweight, and this will be another flyweight fight. That's something else to keep in mind, which he did make weight, didn't look drained out or anything. So that's a giant plus for him. My only worry is I see Pettis winning this fight. Benoit he's very talented, has great hands, great Muay Thai, but tends to put a little too much power in it, and his jaw definitely got tested by Josh Sampo. So who's not a striker by any means. He just caught him with an overhand right that kind of changed the course of that fight, which led to the submission. But I don't know, man. I see him winning, but Pettis might be due. He's normally a 50, 60-point fighter when he wins the decision, but the guy does have a track record of finishing fights before he got in the UFC, and maybe that's what truly prompted the drop, is to just take that next step and that level and try and step up in competition. I mean, he's only still, before anything, he's 20 years old. Holy shit, does this guy have a long career ahead of him. He can take it as slow as he wants right now.
You're 20 years old, you have 30 fights. I'm having a little technical difficulties on my end. Seems like I've Well, sound.
11-2.
I can't hear you, unfortunately. Let's see.
I believe it. I'll
That
say
makes
this.
a
I believe
difference, and it
Sergio
doesn't.
Pettis is 11. Oh no, 11-1.
Fucking great.
That's horrible.
Um,
Well, we can hear
I
you.
can't hear nothing. No sound. So, fuck. I will turn this over to my.
That's how we have to
Yeah, I know
communicate.
everybody can hear me. So I'll go with this one kind of blind. I'm gonna
It'll
kind of
make it
pass this
funny.
one off to Jay. I'm gonna move on to the next fight, which is Cuddly Bear, which, like I kind of said, was a favorite nickname of mine. And we'll see if I can get the sound going back on while you tell everybody about Cuddly Bear.
Okay, Cuddly Bear. For those of you who don't know, I was planning on blogging about UFC for a long time. Decided not to. It was a lot of time and effort. And one morning I woke up before the Frankie Edgar Cub Swanson fight, and I believe that is the fight where he had the card where he had his first fight in the UFC. So Cuddly Bear's a little sentimental, but what my prediction was wrong. I did predict him to win against Magomedov, and it didn't come through, but the analysis was correct. So on this one, I'm going with Cuddly Bear. The guy, he fucking smiles. He's a dough ball. You look at him and you never expect this guy was a fighter. But quite frankly, this dude will fuck your shit up. It doesn't look like his last loss, but Magomedov is a phenomenal striker that had a huge amount of reach on him. If you look at the fight, um, the big thing he had to watch for was the kick coming after the punches. It probably would have sent him on Dream Street if he wasn't looking for it. So he's a very smart fighter for being a guy that's only had one fight in the UFC, trains at a grudge training center. Guy's got good jabs, good power. He's got more submissions than he's got. I'm high on the guy because I'm not high on Rochalt. Rochalt's a Division One All-American. Haven't liked his performances. One of the few heavyweights that goes to a lot of decisions, but when he loses, uh, he goes down in a blaze of glory. He goes out hard. And why I like Copeland so much in this fight is if you look at Rochalt, he gets tired really quickly from overusing his wrestling, not bailing on positions he should to be a little more conservative and effective with his energy. But when he breaks away from those clinches, he swings haymakers, and that's where he gets caught a lot. Derek Lewis finished him, and then he got finished in his last fight. I'm not high on Rochalt at all, and in my article I pointed out the Carlos Condit Dan Hardy fight, and one of the best things about that was both of them threw the same punch. Carlos's was slightly more flush, and Dan Hardy went out, and Carlos was fine. I think I see the same thing happening. I see Copeland just throwing a left hook, throwing the left hand, and Rochalt's going down. Copeland's got a chin. So it does make sense to say that this could go to a decision, but if I got to pick an underdog pick for this card, it's Cuddly Bear. It's funny you even got a nickname, the Cuddly Bear, and he kind of owns it well. I love it. I love it.
Well, I ain't heard a fucking thing you just said. I'm just gonna move it on to the next fight. Who, until the weigh-ins, I was all over this guy. You know what I'm talking about? Darren Cruikshank. What a jackass. Okay. Number one, you know before you even step out that you're 2 pounds over, 2.5 pounds overweight. They gave you 2 freaking hours, and the most that you could cut is half a pound. Now you're the weight cut expert. I'll let you weigh in on this. Just let me go on my little rant.
Um,
Okay.
First off,
This is a guy who, by all intents and purposes, should really be cleaning up in this division and moving his way up, yet kind of just runs into his own roadblocks. And I kind of said to you earlier, maybe fighting out of Detroit just isn't the way to go. So I'm probably going to lean towards Dariush here. I'll let you kind of go ahead and step in and fill the actual audience in on some shit.
well, regarding the weight cut, there's a couple guys that miss weight. First off, as a wrestler that's had to do a weight class oriented sport, that's the first competition like I was actually competed in with weight cuts, and you don't miss weight. It's bar none, because you can bust your ass in the room all you want and be the best wrestler in the world, but if you don't make weight, nobody gets to see it. I think it's disrespectful to your opponent, but that's just the ethics of it. But what scares me is that he missed weight, attempted again, and didn't make weight. So that tells me he probably hit a wall. If he had 2 hours to cut, if he's got 2 hours to cut, that's not good at all. Either he got too tired and just said, fuck it, I don't care about the money, or he had nothing left to give before just basically puking. So I don't think that's a good sign. I immediately favor Crookshanks, but this is the closest fight on Vegas, and then you take the weight into account, and it's not really looking good. The one thing that does ring out is Crookshanks has knockout power. He has crazy ability in his hands, and he's knocked guys out. I mean, you got to think, he had a no contest in his last fight due to an eye poke, and he had a lackluster performance against Jorge Masvidal, which Jorge Masvidal, that dude's a beast. He's truly a great fighter from the street. So there's no shame in losing to him. But Dariush, no joke, great grappling, overall good fighter. I just don't like how low he holds his hands. The jiu-jitsu black belt would mean more to me in this instance if this wasn't MMA. If this was another submission grappling sport, we'd be okay. But you get punched in the face when you're on the ground. And Crookshanks is a more well-rounded fighter, whereas we're kind of finding out in this fight if Dariush has a chin or Ramsey Najim just hit him, just has power. We're finding out if the chin got cracked and Dariush was never able to recover, or his chin, he just doesn't have one. So this one's a pick'em fight. I said Crookshanks earlier the whole way in issues. I'm kind of this one's a toss-up. Easiest way I can say it.
Again, given the technical difficulties, I'm just kind of jumping in when I'm thinking I'm supposed to kind of go on. I'm just guessing the segments now.
If you see me stare at the screen a little harder after I talk, I'm typing in something.
As for right now, next big fight, we got Elias Theodore versus Roger Navarez. If anybody knows me, knows well enough, I'm big on Illuminati hand signs when there's weigh-ins. So as soon as Elias hits weight, he goes like this. Anybody would say, okay, that's the okay sign. Anybody that actually knows recognizes that this is actually for 666. It's very heavily used within the Illuminati community, but to a smaller degree, Masons. I always feel as if these are kind of telltale signs that a guy should do good. Elias has been the big pick. If you're going by DraftKings, I think he's the highest guy on there. He's even more Pettis, which really throws me. We got a guy, he's got a 10-0 record. He's got a good KO finish. Going against a guy that's only got one loss. They both looked decent when they came out at the weigh-ins. I'm really big on that. That's kind of where my expertise kicks in. But once Elias threw up this, it pretty much told me that I'm going to go ahead and pick him and just say the hell with it. See if the Illuminati hand signals steer me wrong. Jay, what do you think?
Quick correction. Elias is 11-7. I like everything the guy puts out. The only thing that scares me is he has two performances in the UFC. One was phenomenal, where he got most of his high metrics from. I'm high on the kid. I think he was actually voted the #1 middleweight in Canada, not in the in strictly competing in Canada before he went on the Ultimate Fighter. What can I say? The guy throws as much as he can, as fast as he can, unorthodox strikes. takes you down, pounds on you, got a gas tank forever. It's really hard to beat a guy like that unless you're catching him with punch or you're planting him on his butt. Um, Narvaez, Navis, I'm butchering his name. I know it's horrible, but um, first fight he got knocked out by Pat Cummins at 205. I take that with a grain of salt. He looked really good, really mean at the weigh-ins, but he had a really boring, lackluster fight with Luke Barnett. I couldn't stand it. It was horrible. Barnett was very tentative. He had good footwork, though, and I just didn't see why he didn't push the pace sooner. But Elias is a tall task. I don't know if he's going to get a finish. I definitely see him getting the win, regardless of what any statistics Vegas says. It's just I think he can overwhelm him. The question is can he get the finish? Can he get the finish? If it will, chances are probably later in the fight. But Elias, for DraftKings, I'd probably play him a little more, considering he's the fourth highest guy on the card, whereas in DraftKings or Counter Move, I think he's the second most expensive behind Pettis. I would give him a little bit more of a play on DraftKings than I would, but you got Anthony Pettis on a card. We'll get into that later.
So, the next one's probably the closest fight on the card. Ross Pearson, Stam Stout. I think our big conversation was after Stout's last loss, do we think maybe his chin's gone? And this is a good opportunity for Pearson from going to the weigh-ins narrative. If I remember correctly, Pearson was drinking kind of heavy, but neither of them really, wasn't like they missed weight or anything. So you kind of take into consideration what you got there. I call this a pick-em fight, where you can go either way, and if you end up on the right side of this fight, you probably got a good shot of winning money if you made your other picks smartly. Justin, what do you think?
Overall, I think this is a loser's fight for everybody. They're both strikers, so I'm not saying somebody's going to get knocked out, because I actually think this is going to – sometimes when you have two great strikers, they nullify out. Michael Johnson was dominant in his last fight, but the lines were very similar. Somebody was getting knocked out, and I kind of said, nah, I don't think anybody's getting knocked out, but somebody's going to be more dominant. And it was incredibly close. The underdog came out and surprised us in that fight. But Ross Pearson's been up and down. Had a good jaw, bad jaw, good performance, bad performance. The only thing I don't like is he had a good performance against a bad fighter and then a bad performance against a good fighter. And what I mean by that is Gray Maynard doesn't seem to have a chin since he lost to Edgar. And I would just take that win with a grain of salt. Now, Sam Stout, on the other hand, is coming off the first loss of his career. This dude's been employed with the UFC fucking forever. I mean, to my recollection, I mean, he's probably been the longest 10-year fighter right now that not very shelved very often, aside from Gleason Tebow. Great fighter, but unfortunately, when Sean Tompkins passed away, I just don't think this guy's quite been the same as he used to be. He's young, but he's older in his career. But Ross is the one that has the knockout power in my hands. In my opinion, he is the one that has the power in his hands. But Stout has the chin. Again, he's only been knocked out once, so we're going to find out if his chin's starting to deteriorate or he just got hit with a great shot by KJ Nunes. Nunes is a great boxer. So I can't say this is a pick'em fight. For DraftKings, Ross Pearson's 11-8 and Sam Stout's the clear underdog. He's low in the 8s.
Okay.
I definitely see
fight.
more value in Ross and counter move than I do in DraftKings.
This one, I think on paper, Cejudo, Caracio probably is a lot closer than what Vegas and everybody seems to be going with, uh, which is kind of odd when you think about it. Um, I actually correction from an earlier statement. Henry Cejudo is the one that is actually priced higher than Anthony Pettis. um, and Caracio, here's a guy that's 7-0. Where do you go with this one? He's kind of an unknown in the UFC, so I mean, I think for your occasional fight fan, somebody maybe on more my metric than yours, I'm going to kind of stay away from this fight. But it could be another one of the fights that seem like the ones that people have the least interest in from a DFS standpoint will make you the most money because that's where you're going to have probably your least owned fighters. So you have
Uh,
to look to these and say, okay, do I find an advantage to either one of these guys? Um, I kind of don't. So do I spend the extra money or do I just stay the hell away from the fight?
to be honest, the Cejudo fight, I have two different opinions. For counter move, I would play him. He's at 4,600 for Caracio and 5 for Cejudo. Last time Cejudo put up, I believe, 88 points, and if you're averaging it out to make a pretty decent chunk of money in counter move, you're looking at above 400 points. So he's actually not a bad play for his price. He thoroughly dominated his last fight. He's dropping down to flyweight. Not only did he make weight for flyweight, he made 125. He made title weight. So he just basically told everyone to shut the fuck up. I made weight in the flyweight weight class, and I'm here to fight. I don't see a finish. Caracio is ultra tough, durable guy with a lot of experience. But again, 88 points, an average of 80 points per fighter is not bad. DraftKings, I would stay away. He's overvalued for what he is.
And so now we're going to go over to the fat boys. And, this one, this is going to pull on your heartstrings some because I think, at least from a personal standpoint, I think Alistair Overeem is a fucking dickhead. I'm just going to be honest. I mean, the guy's an asshole. Okay, I watched him in a recent interview with Ariel Helwani, and he didn't want to stand up for an interview. Ariel kind of talked about the last time he had seen him, and he was kind of standoffish, and now, they're a little bit more on friendlier terms, and Alistair just seems fake to me. And I read an article from somebody else who pointed to steroids maybe being Alistair's downfall. That's kind of a funny statement. We look at guys that maybe have been on the roids or whatever, and now the UFC's being a little bit more stringent on PED use. That maybe that they're going to see a faster decline than somebody like Nelson, he's fat. Let's just be honest. But the guy's fat. He could swing. He's got a hell of a chin.
He's like Samson. That mullet gives him power.
Here is reach advantage. So, I mean, maybe you can kind of educate the public on reach advantage, and I'll take a step back.
One statistic I heard, I believe, this is probably back in December, is 6 inches or more in reach. Whoever is giving up the reach has a 20% success rate. Roy Nelson has had pretty bad fights with guys that have over 6 inches reach. Alistair actually sports 8. He's 80 inches to 72. Roy got knocked out by Mark Hunt, who has the same reach as him, but everyone that has fought Roy and has had a substantial reach advantage has put on a pretty big clinic for him. Most notably, Junior Dos Santos. I know Dos Santos is a completely different animal than Alistair Overeem, but go on Fight Metric, check it out. Roy doesn't have a whole lot of luck, but I would give him the power. I give him the chin. I give him the weight. Honestly, I don't know how good Alistair's chin actually is because let's not forget the horrible, horrible, horrible injury Mark Hunt put Stefan Struve through. He broke his jaw all to shit. I mean, Google the X-ray pictures. Google the X-ray pictures of what Hunt did to Struve, and you'll notice. You might say, "Oh yeah, he probably doesn't have a chin anymore," which is a good reason. Uh, Alistair knocked him out. Um, yeah, I don't know. The guy's had a history of knockout power, but he's also one thing I scares me about Overeem is he was incredibly arrogant in two of his fights where he was winning in dominant fashion, and then just poof, two punches later, you see him wobbling, and then yeah, done. Um, again, heavyweights are always pick 'em fights, but I can't pick against statistics, so I got to go Overeem.
All right, so on to the next fight. Which I actually think, personally speaking, one of the big articles I keep seeing that popped up was, can Anthony Pettis be the pay-per-view king? And I almost feel like this fight should be a Fox main event and not like a third, next to the co-main event in a pay-per-view. You go with this fight as this is your main event on Fox, and I guarantee you you're going to get at least 1.5 million viewers just of UFC fans that want to watch it, let alone your occasional guys. I love this fight. I might be looking forward to this fight more than any of the other fights because I actually think it's competitive. Um, that's Matt Brown versus Johnny Big Rick Hendricks.
Yes.
The immortal Matt Brown, what can you say? I mean, this guy's got an iron jaw. And, Hendricks at the weigh-ins looked great. Like, I think he looked a little doughy to me before the Lawler fight. He definitely looks like he's in shape and ready to try to make that second run. So, kind of give us the statistical breakdown of where you're thinking on this one.
Oh man, I was so excited about this fight when it was announced. They said they were going to do a trilogy with Lawler, and then that had did not have any appeal to it whatsoever because of that fight Johnny shit the bed. He really did. The conditioning got to him. He basically humped Robbie Lawler's leg for oh god, this title fight 25 minutes is horrible. But as soon as they announced this. Johnny Hendricks hasn't gotten a knockout in a while, but he made his run, the beginning of his run to the title on knockout power. Matt Brown's never been knocked out. Guy always comes game, always comes to throw. And to be honest, I'll ask this question. I have to type it to Champ, but did you ever think we would see Brown fighting for a title? I'm sorry, I correct that. I correct that. He's not fighting for a title, but he's arguably in the top 5 in the world. I personally never thought I would see him in the top 5. How about you?
And no, if you're talking Matt Brown 2 years ago, if I think he's going to be in a top 5, close to title contention, the probably answer is no. Um, what he's shown me recently is a guy's resilient, and I think this is a test for Big Rick. I think that this is one where if he's looking too far into the future of I'm trying to get my title back, I don't think he's stupid enough to look past Matt Brown. But I also think that he may be overcommitting to maybe try to get a finish where Lawler did it and he could get caught. Um, I'm going to tend to lean towards Brown only for the fact that Hendricks worries me with his point scoring. And I don't think that either of these guys get finished. And we're only talking 3 rounds. So whoever controls the first round controls the fight. And for Johnny, that means he's kind of going to get Matt on the ground and kind of grind on him for a while. If he goes into this, I'm going to shoot and can overcommit to try and get the takedown even when it's not there, the judges could look at it and side with Brown. So it's really going to come down to scorecards. I think maybe Texas maybe favors Hendricks, but it's tough. It's a tough fight to call. I'm just going to go ahead and segue on to the next one, which is the hardest name in the UFC to pronounce versus the first ever strawweight champion in the Cookie Monster. Esparza is, you're more impressed with her than I am. I'll put it to you that way.
I'm more impressed from the standpoint of women's MMA is in its infancy. Look at Ronda, and I'm not saying she's at the caliber of Ronda whatsoever, but I'm saying Ronda has a skill set well beyond in one discipline that got her going, and then she's evolved beyond that. Carlos Esparza, you got to think Ronda only had 4 fights before she was the women's UFC champion. She had to develop. You're not going to tell me a person that's 4-0 and a judo world medalist has great hands. It's just not going to happen. But Carla has phenomenal wrestling, and that seems to be what is a lot of fighters' Achilles heel, let alone a lot of female fighters' Achilles heel. You saw Rose Namajunas, even though Carlos Esparza was the flyweight champion, or the strawweight champion of Invicta. She was the first seed coming in. Rose Namajunas was still the Vegas betting favorites. And Carla tore her apart. If anyone, my personal opinion is, I think this fight's going to go similar to how Frankie Edgar and Cub Swanson went. Everyone's saying you have this dangerous striker and you have a wrestler. It's going to be this, it's going to be that. The wrestler is going to put the boxer on their ass.
All right, and for me, I'm going to say Joanna's hands do something, but in watching that last fight to see how many times she was taken down, I really think that's where Esparza's edge is going to be in this fight. As to if she could get a finish is where I'm kind of on the fence. 5 rounds, that's where I think it could pay its dividends, especially if you're kind of grinding on somebody on the ground. I like Esparza, but I wouldn't be surprised if Joanna pulled an upset out of nowhere. We only got 1 fight left. It's the fight that it's the main event. It's Showtime, and can he cement his name as a top UFC guy, or is he just like another champion that just kind of grinds out finishes to not go? And if him not doing that route, does that cost him his belt? I think is the big narrative question in all of this.
I don't think so. I think he goes for the finish. He goes for flash, and he doesn't go for flash for shock value. He goes for flash because you don't expect it. Cartwheel kicks, spinning back kicks, and the famous Showtime kick. I don't think he's going to do the Showtime kick because a lot of people, we kind of know that he might do that. Like, no, you're not going to catch me with this. But I don't think he's one of those champions that's going to be a revolving door. I think he's a truly special talent. I think he's very mature at a young age, has a phenomenal career thus far. Personally, I think we're going to eventually see a showdown between him and Conor McGregor, and I think it's going to be one of the best fights that anyone's ever seen.
And that's where everybody kind of segues too, is the McGregor comparisons, and their fighting styles. I could see where most people get that from, is that they throw punches and combinations and angles that most people don't see coming. I read an article trying to find chinks in Pettis' armor, and kind of laughed when I read the article because it seemed like he really only had one, and they tried to make it to be 3. I think that I've been calling it blockheads. I'm just going to run with it. The guy's a good fighter. I think that a lot of these Brazilians kind of fell into this mold of we're so superior elite that they didn't hone their game as much. The Sonyos looks like he's going to want to, stand up and trade with Pettis, which might not be in his best standpoint. He might be better off trying to get this guy, fight to the ground. Maybe
Hell
not getting
no.
Pettis off of his back, but trying to, work in some ground and pounds and try to, just kind of grind this fight out. I think that's his key to victory. I don't think that standing there and throwing shots with Anthony Pettis is a smart idea for any fighter. I don't think anybody would do it.
No.
Stand in the pocket. You got to go after this guy and pressure him and put him to the ground.
The problem is he rebounds so well. He doesn't mind having his back against the cage. He throws a lot of knees. Like I said, I think he's a truly special talent. Do I think he can be beaten? Yes. Every fighter out there can be beaten, but he is going to be one of those guys that he's going to have to be knocked out to be truly beaten. I mean, it's going to be a striker that is just better than him. And right now, in the 155-pound division, he does not have that. Everyone wants to talk about Khabib Nurmagomedov, and I just don't see it. I don't see how his wrestling's phenomenal. He has one loss. Let's not diminish Khabib whatsoever, but I don't see the champion losing. I don't see the champion losing to a grinder. I don't care what type of grinder you are. Anthony Pettis is not going to deal with your bullshit. Let's look at Gilbert Melendez. Gilbert Melendez had never been finished before in his very long, very illustrious, very top-level, heavy career. Anthony Pettis fucked him up. I'm sorry. Anthony Pettis fucked Gilbert up. I mean, fucked him up. So I don't know when. I don't know when, but I really see a finish for Pettis. Anytime in the fight, going to be a knockout. Don't know when. And he's driven for the knockout. He doesn't want another submission.
Well, I think for our first podcast, given the technical difficulties and everything that we garnered, we made it through it. What we plan to do is actually do a lot more of these. Strictly, it's kind of DFS purposes. I kind of come in as the everything DFS guy in basketball, baseball, football, golf. Still haven't gotten to the soccer yet, but it seems like it's calling my name. And of course, MMA, which Justin kind of runs that realm over here. And get a chance, take a look it up. We're going to put it probably in the comment section. There'll be a post to Trials and Shazam's blog links. You can look at those. We got about, I think, 2 hours, an hour and a half before lineups lock on Camera Move, 2.5 hours before they're going to lock on DraftKings, give or take. I actually don't know the actual start times because it is, I think, Central Time, since it's in Dallas, which is kind of odd, used to the Vegas times and everything. But, I think that's going to do it for us here. As for Champ-Payne, shoot it out to my boy Trials, let him say goodbye, and we're out.